Warning, this one's a deep dive into nightmarish seas. In this video we are talking about the scariest myths in history. Picture a midnight ocean so black it swallows your lantern whole. Suddenly the water boils, ropes snap, something the size of an island drags the keel under. That's the Kraken, a leviathan of North Atlantic sailors' lore, a living whirlpool of tentacles that could wrap, crush and vanish an entire ship in minutes. Early accounts treat it like a natural horror. Giant squid sightings, colossally misread, turned into a creature with a vengeance. Later tales dress it up as punishment, the sea's answer to hubris. The procedural terror of Kraken stories comes in slow escalation. First a strange bump, then a sail torn clean off, then men screaming as arms like trees rip through decks. Authors love the sensory details, the stench of brine, the oily suction on wooden planks, the grinding of barnacle-hard flesh against hull. It's theatre. Whale hunt becomes cosmic ambush. What's wild is how the Kraken functions culturally. For seafarers it explained sudden loss, storms, and the abyssal unknown. For storytellers it provided motive, hunger, defense, or simply the ocean's cruelty. Modern science shrinks the beast, but the fear remains. Deep, cold, patient, the kind that makes sailors whisper prayers to wooden gods before crossing a dark horizon. Chapter 2. Witchcraft. Witchcraft is less a single monster and more a contagious fear that metastasized across Europe and colonial America. Imagine a rumor starting in a market, a bad harvest, a sudden death, a newborn who won't stop crying, and then watch it bloom into accusations that could ruin a life. The witch in these stories is a catch-all scapegoat, healer, outcast, midwife, eccentric neighbor. Once accused, ritualized terror did the rest. The mechanics are painfully bureaucratic and theatrical. Neighbors swear vague oaths, magistrates commission tests, the infamous ducking, the search for witches' marks, confessions are pried out under pain or promise. Trials mixed superstition, legalism and spectacle, public hangings, burnings and humiliations that doubled as entertainment and moral lessons. Sensory details linger, the stink of torch smoke, the rustle of straw as bodies fell, whispered prayers turned thin with fear. Culturally, witchcraft served as an explanation for the inexplicable and a tool for social control. It targeted the vulnerable, elderly women, dissenters, anyone who stepped outside narrow norms. Even after skepticism grew, the legacy stayed. Trials, pamphlets, and a language of suspicion that resurfaced in new forms whenever societies panicked. The myth of witchcraft wasn't about demons alone. It was about how communities police fear. Chapter 3. The Wendigo. The Wendigo is a cold, hungry thing, a winter spirit from Algonquian traditions that embodies starvation, greed, and the terror of isolation. Picture a gaunt figure with stretched skin, yellowed eyes, and an appetite that no meal will ever sate. But the Wendigo is more than a monster. It's a caution stitched into folklore. Don't let hunger hollow you into something inhuman. Stories vary. In some versions, the Wendigo is a distinct being, hunting travelers in blizzard. In others, a person who resorts to cannibalism becomes possessed, transformed from neighbor into predator. The procedural creep of Wendigo tales is gradual. First odd behavior, then whispers of theft, then the final impossible hunger. Sensory details emphasize winter, the brittle snap of frozen branches, the white glare that erases landmarks, the metallic taste of fear in your mouth as footprints vanish in fresh snow. Culturally, Wendigo stories police survival ethics and communal boundaries. In harsh winters, the myth discouraged hoarding and the taboo of consuming one's own. Later colonization and sensationalist retellings flattened complex teachings into cheap horror. Modern media leans on the cannibal angle, but the original myth is a moral engine. A way communities warned, if scarcity strips away your humanity, something worse than death may take you. Chapter 4. The Pentagalan. The Pentagalan is a Southeast Asian maritime nightmare, an islander's warning about lonely nights at sea and stranger tides. Imagine a slow, shadowy shape slipping alongside a canoe, a pale, elongated face peering through the sting of rain, eyes like wet coins, a mouth that never quite closes. In some coastal provinces, the Pentagalan is said to hunt fishermen and solitary travelers, drawn to the scent of smoke from a lone fire or the flash of a lantern. Procedure in the tales is grotesquely intimate. The creature waits until the victim is asleep or isolated, then slides a long, thin proboscis or tongue into exposed orifices, ears, nose, mouth, sucking out warmth, breath, or blood in a silence that feels like being unmade. Other versions describe it as a night-roaming phantom that smears salt on doorways and spits whispering curses into hull planks so that boats drift aimless at dawn. The horror is in the quietness, no battle, just a slow, intimate taking while friends sleep unaware. Culturally, the Pentagalan explains disappearances at sea and enforces social rules. Never travel alone at night, cover your fire, sleep in groups. As with many maritime myths, it mixes real dangers, storms, exposure, piracy, with personified fear. The Pentagalan keeps communities vigilant. Better an ember and 2 oars than a story that leaves your name on a coastal shrine. Chapter 5. The Chupacabra. The Chupacabra is a modern myth with ancient appetite, a livestock predator born in late 20th century Latin America that quickly joined the folklore canon. Picture dawn on a rural ranch, ranch. Goats found drained, tiny puncture wounds at the throat, no footprints leading away. The creature's name, goat sucker, says the rest, and the image stuck. A reptilian spiky-backed thing or a mangy, vampire-like canine, depending on who's telling it. Tales follow a consistent procedure. Livestock discovered overnight, blood reportedly gone, neighbors whisper, someone out there prowls with surgical precision. Sightings balloon with every rumor-laced phone call and tabloid piece. Photos grainy, videos fuzzy, and every missing goat becomes a data point in the panic. Scientific explanations, parasites, coyotes, misidentified dogs, coexist uneasily with eyewitness terror, because the Chupacabra thrives where certainty fails. Culturally, Chupacabra stories reveal anxieties about globalization, environmental change, and economic precarity. Ranchers losing stock, communities vulnerable to rumor, a monster that feeds on small livelihoods. Also a media age myth, quick to spread, quick to mutate. Whether scaly and alien or mangled and canine, the Chupacabra functions the same way. A convenient shape to point to when the dark eats your paycheck and your neighbors have answers you don't. Chapter 6, La Llorona. La Llorona, the Weeping Woman, is a ghost story that doubles as a moral and a warning across Hispanic cultures. Picture moonlight on a riverbank and the chill sound of a woman calling a child's name, except the voice folds into sobs and then silence. Versions vary. A scorned lover who drowns her children in a jealous rage, a grieving mother who lost her kids to fate, or a woman cursed to search rivers for children forever. The image is simple and relentless. Wet dress, hollow eyes, a cry that stops your blood. The procedural terror is theatrical and intimate. She's not a marauding beast. She's a presence that finds you at night at water's edge when the town is sleep quiet. Fathers use her tale to keep children from wandering. Lovers invoke her to explain sudden disappearances. The sensory details matter. Sodden fabric clinging to skin, the ghost breath on your neck, the slick sound of river pebbles underfoot. Every retelling tightens the knot. Culturally, La Llorona enforces social norms about motherhood, responsibility, and the dangers of transgression, but she's also a repository for collective grief, colonization, lost children, communities torn by violence. The story endures because it can be both cautionary and sorrowful. Horror fused to empathy, a ghost who terrifies and mourns in equal measure. Chapter 7. Black Shuck. Black Shuck is an English phantom hound that shows up like a thunderclap on a wet, lightning-slit night. A huge dog, coal black, eyes like burning coals, moving without sound until it's suddenly there on the churchyard path. Accounts cluster in East Anglia, parishioners bolting doors, bells tolling themselves, a deafening presence that leaves scorch marks on wood and mortal dread on the living. It's not just a spooky dog, it's an omen, a visible, violent sign that death or disaster is very near. Stories unfold with stagecraft. First, the weather goes wrong. A squall, a flash of light. Then the hound appears, padding between pews, across rooftops, sometimes eating a flock's worth of sheep in a single, impossible path. Witnesses describe a smell of sulphur and a sensation like someone had walked through the room and unplugged warmth. In one famous account, parishioners swore the creature tore through a church, killing 2 people and leaving a black scorch mark on the door that remained for centuries. Culturally, Black Shuck embodies fear of sudden catastrophe. Storms, plague, war, made animal and moral. The dog could be a diabolical spy, a guardian of ancient curse, or simply a explaining shadow for tragic coincidence. That ambiguity is the point. Whether omen or predator, Black Shuck forces communities to read the weather as meaning and to believe that some nights are already decided before you ever step outside. Chapter 8. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga is the Slavic forest witch who eats the unwary and runs a house that walks on chicken legs. A fairy tale nightmare dressed as a moral test. Picture a hut spinning in the clearing, bones for fence posts, pine needles crackling underfoot, and an old woman whose nose and appetite are equally sharp. She's both villain and guardian. Tricksters fail and are eaten. Clever travelers pass her tests and leave with magical aid. Tales follow a ritual choreography. The traveler approaches the hut and must call it by name. The fence of bones creaks open. The floorboards smell of mushrooms and iron. Baba Yaga might demand impossible tasks. Fetch water in a sieve, separate mixed grain, and watch closely for honesty, courage, or cunning. She cooks at a fire with a pestle and mortar that can fly. Her soup can be poison or providence depending on how you behave. The suspense is procedural. Succeed and you leave with a feathered cap or a map. Fail and the forest keeps your bone. Culturally, Baba Yaga enforces boundaries between civilized village life and the wild unknown. She encodes lessons about hospitality, reciprocity, and the respect owed to the uncanny powers of nature. Unlike tidy monsters, she's ambiguous, capable of cruelty and unexpected mercy, so her stories teach that the forest's rules are strict but just, and that survival often hinges on wit as much as virtue.